Hello and welcome to the 40th episode of the Emperor's New podcast, where we explore every corner of the Emperor's New Groove franchise. Today, I will be interviewing a very special guest. You may know him as both Principal Hackett and Curtis the Caveman on Phil of the Future, not Moby from How I Met Your Mother, and of course, the voice of Cusco in the Emperor's New School and various other spin-off material. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome JP Manoux.
Woohoo! That's a whole stadium of people cheering. It's all about me. Theme music. You've got the real McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
You got the real McCoy in the house. If by real McCoy, you're referring specifically to the Emperor's New School and not Groove.
Well, here we they're a collective, even though they're different people.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with this podcast and how it has embraced the Cusco-verse, the multi-Cusco-verse.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be any part of it.
Yeah, please. I believe you started voicing Cusco in the Emperor's New Groove video game. Is that correct?
Yes, that was the first time they brought me in, and I actually didn't do any voiceover work before that. But I had commercial agents, on-camera commercial agents, and I was in the lobby. They also had a voice department, and I overheard somebody saying like, "Ugh, if only we had somebody who did a David Spade impression," because apparently he didn't want to do the video game or was unavailable to. And I was like, I can be kind of sinusy and sarcastic, and I basically was doing an impression of Fran Drescher, and it sounded like David Spade, with like Fran Drescher's laugh, that like, and they were like, "Oh, that's pretty good. We'll send it in." And then I think because I was already on Phil of the Future, the people at Disney Channel were like, "Yeah, okay, well, we like JP. He's in-house, and that sounds good enough. Good." And in the beginning, they wanted me to be a perfect voice match. So for the video game, I had to just basically re-record the exact lines of dialogue he had said in the movie that they were using in the video game. And it fooled enough people that they were like, "Okay, well, now we're doing this TV show and David still doesn't want to be in it." So I got the gig. That was great.
Yay. Now I already said that. Sorry, I'm reading from a list of questions.
Okay.
And as I was about to say, but of course, when it comes to Cusco, you're most well known for voicing him in the TV series. What's it like to take a character like that and basically, do your own take on a character like that, basically?
Yeah, I was super intimidated at first because I really wanted to try to sound exactly like him. And then I think it was Jamie Thomason, who's one of our voice directors, or the guys who would direct the record sessions. At one point, I think he was just saying like, we're trying to digitally get the exact same pitch and stuff. He's like, forget it. Just be the character, embrace the character. That's the most important thing. He's going to look like Cusco because they're going to draw him the same. So don't worry so much about that. And then it was really liberating because then it was fun. Then I was able to kind of do whatever my spin on a line would be, instead of trying to be like, exactly how would David Spade have said this? So I think you can tell if you listen to the first few episodes of season 1, I'm still kind of trying to be Spade. And then after a while, I really just kind of abandoned it and nobody stopped me. So, but that's sort of for better or for worse, because now, many years later, I'm not sure if it's just that Spade wants to do the character again for whatever else they have coming down the pipeline for Cusco. But I was recently told you will not be playing Cusco anymore. And I was like, oh man, because I liked it. I really enjoyed it.
Oh man.
Yeah. I think he just saw enough of me out there and started getting jealous.
Yeah, I on the one hand, that's really sad. On the other hand, the fact that they're telling you won't be playing Cusco implies to me that there may be more something with Cusco.
Yes. For fans of the Cuscoverse, I think I don't know if it's going to be another feature or another TV series, but I assume because Disney Plus is always looking for content.
And today's Disney Plus day, so
happy Disney Plus day! Please go and watch every episode of Phil of the Future and The Emperor's New School.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories from voice actors who were Rob Paulson, for example, when he was on the Mask series, how they wanted him to be Jim Carrey, and he just said, you didn't get Jim Carrey, so you're going to have to let me be me.
Yeah, when it's for smaller things or a video game or whatever, like they'll spend more time really trying to like get it just perfect. I used to also do sound alike work for Steve Buscemi's character from Monsters Inc. And so we'd spend a lot of time really trying to get it exactly right. But when you're doing animated television, like, we'll have 2 scripts, 3 scripts, 4 scripts, and we'll try to knock them all out in one record session, kind of like the way they shoot soap operas or TV game shows, where like, the host of Wheel of Fortune or Jeopardy, whatever, will show up and they'll do a whole week of shows in one day.
Yeah.
Try it. So you're trying to make yourself familiar with the scripts ahead of time, but you're really in there doing like 1, 2, maybe 3 takes and like moving on. So
Sounds efficient.
yeah, it's often when if I happen to see my nephews or watching an episode that I haven't seen in a long time, or listening to you guys talk about the show on your podcast, it's hard for me to remember. And it's not just because it was several years ago, but also because like we went through 3 stories in that one record session. So it's like, wait, where am I now? What's happening to Kronk? Yeah.
Kronk's being Kronk.
Kronk. I love Kronk. And Patrick Warburton in particular.
Yeah.
He's great. Yeah. I love, have you ever been to California Adventure and gone on Soarin'? Yeah. I love that he's your like pilot for that.
Yeah, and the whole reason that they were originally going to have John Travolta do that, but there were scheduling conflicts, and the whole reason that they got Patrick Warburton to do Soarin' is because they love The Emperor's New Groove so much.
That's awesome. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah. Apologize for that plumbing sound in the background if everyone can hear that. I've got a fancy new drinking water filtration system, but I haven't figured out how to calm it down.
That's fine. Do you have any fun behind the scenes stories?
From recording The Emperor's New School? Well, just, being in the lobby, because very rarely do you record in the room with the other characters. Maybe a couple of times or a couple of scenes we did it, but it requires you have to set up multiple mics, and the engineer gets more work for him. And if one person's off, maybe you have to re-record the whole thing. So typically each character's lines are recorded separately. So it's only in the lobby when one person's waiting to go in and one person's leaving that you cross paths. And that was super cool because I would bump into Ben Stein, or, did I actually meet Miley Cyrus? I feel like I did, because she did some of the characters.
Yeah. She was Yada.
I don't know if she was in season 1, but I feel like she was in season 2.
Yeah, she was in season 2.
Yes, she was one of like Melina's friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that would be really cool where, Rip Taylor, like I bumped into Rip Taylor. And it's like, I remember being a kid and seeing him go on like the Mike Douglas show or Merv Griffin and like toss his confetti. And it's like, oh, here he is, like, and we're working on the same show together. It's terrific.
Yeah. Now getting away from Cusco for just a little bit. So how did you get your start on television?
Well, I remember just always wanting to be on television. So
I said how, but that's fine too.
Yeah. So the how was a big question mark for me because, growing up, I'd watch like Saturday Night Live and SCTV, and I was really attracted to things like that, and even multi-camera sitcoms. But I didn't have any friend of the family or anyone who could help make that as a career path, being an actor on television, something real. It all just seemed kind of like magical and far away.
Yeah.
So my solution to that problem was I knew that real people could get on game shows. So I, as a teenager, tried to get on all of the Teen Week episodes of every game show. And I got on Wheel of Fortune. So my first real thing on TV was as a contestant on Wheel of Fortune Teen Week. And then I just kept like trying to get on Jeopardy and every family. I dragged my family on Family Feud. So that was like just getting my face on TV. And then in high school, I had a great drama teacher who knew that I would be interested in Northwestern University's theater program in Chicago because of the improv and sketch comedy scene there. And he was right. I went there and I had a really eye-opening experience watching all kinds of really talented people on campus, college students. Anna Gasteyer was my roommate off campus. We had an apartment with a couple other people together. Later Seth Meyers, came out of that same show that I did on campus and stuff. So we would start to see some of our friends. When I was a freshman in the senior class, David Schwimmer and all of his Looking Glass Theater guys were there. And so like shortly after that, David was on Friends. And so it started to become not just like I'm interested in acting and stuff, but people are figuring out how to actually make this a career and get on TV. So my first appearance on TV was just trying to get on as a game show. Later was moving back to Southern California. I grew up in Santa Barbara, went to school in Chicago, coming back to LA, and then trying to get in commercials and tiny parts in sitcoms and movies. And bit by bit, it all kind of added up to a career where I didn't need to, wait tables or.
Oh, you froze. Hang on.
Oh, we're back. I have no idea how long I was talking. You couldn't hear me.
Yeah, you froze.
I'm so sorry. I don't know why my Wi-Fi
that happens
switched
sometimes.
networks on me without me clicking a button. So shall I answer that question again? Or how much did you hear before it cut out?
I heard up to I didn't have to wait tables.
Okay. I'll try to give you a little soundbite answer so you can do an edit. Or do you not edit this?
It varies.
Okay. All right. So give a short answer. So getting on TV ultimately as a professional actor was commercials first. I was a Fruit of the Loom guy for several years. I sold underpants on TV dressed as the Green Grapes.
I think I might remember that.
Yeah. And I did a bunch of commercials where usually it was physical comedy. It'd be stuff like I would have a 300-pound wife and she would throw me out of a moving car or something, things like that. I did a bunch of weird commercials, played a lot of bellhops and elevator operators. And then small parts in sitcoms. And later I started getting, bigger parts in sitcoms, some recurring characters and small stuff in some movies. And then the Disney Channel stuff all happened. And that really was a kind of redefining moment for me, where all of the physical comedy stuff that I'd always liked doing had the right outlet in Phil of the Future, where I got to play Mr. Hackett and also Curtis the Caveman.
And that's the perfect segue. You are fondly remembered.
Oh, good. How did I know?
For playing those characters. What was it like to work on the show?
I mean, that show was so much fun because unlike a lot of other kids shows, the parents got to be funny. Like there were a whole bunch of series where like the parents would just be like, well, I don't know, Billy, like you should think about the consequences. But on Phil of the Future, Craig Anton and Lisa Sims, like as the parents, were hilarious. And so being their sort of arch nemesis, Mr. Hackett, like I often got to do funny stuff with Craig. And then Raviv, he's such a pro. Even then, as a child, that he had already done like some Broadway or off-Broadway stuff. Like he was wise beyond his years. But Ali Michalka, man, she sort of had young Lucille Ball type comedy instincts. And that was just delightful to get to play with. Everybody associated with the show is terrific. But I remember mostly when I got to direct an episode of Phil of the Future and was really just looking through the lens of the camera at Raviv and Ali and just being like, wow, these guys are really, they have good chemistry. They're super professional and they're ridiculously funny. So I was really fortunate.
So, and you've also played a Moby impersonator on a few occasions, including at the aforementioned How I Met Your Mother. Was that fun?
Totally fun. Yeah, fun years later too, when I happened to be at a party and Moby was there and somebody told him, hey, the guy who played you on How I Met Your Mother is here. And he like sought me out. He like ran over and like wanted a picture with me. So that was very flattering. Yeah, I don't know how I multiple times ended up becoming a Moby impersonator. I think one of the writers from How I Met Your Mother ended up writing on Community. And so that was, I think, when they had an episode where Jim Rash had a doppelganger, Dean Pelton had the doppelganger that Chang hires for after they kidnap him. Whole complex plot that's kind of like Ocean's 11. But anyway, I think it was one of the writers had been on How I Met Your Mother, and they were like, we can either do the Parent Trap thing where Jim plays both parts, we do like a split screen, or we can just get JP, who looks just like him when we put on him glasses, and hire him. And so that was how they decided to do that, and then created the character Phoebe, the fake Moby DJ, to sort of introduce the lookalike character. And I think there might even be a third Moby thing in my resume somewhere. Having a hard time remembering it, but for sure, that How I Met Your Mother episode that shows around the holidays because it's a New Year's Eve episode. Yeah, for all through January and February, I'll end up with people on the street going like, "Hey, not Moby."
And of course, a year before the original Emperor's New Groove came out, you got to work with David Spade and Cheetah's voice actress Wendy Malick on Just Shoot Me.
Yeah, it seems like Hollywood's really small and there's only like 5 actors, right? They all end up doing all these shows together. Just Shoot Me was so much fun. A multi-camera sitcom work week is the most enviable. Every actor wants to do it because it's super stimulating, and because you have an actual like performance night in front of a live audience. I don't think that's happening these days in post-pandemic, but back in the day, there would be at least 300 people who were already fans of the show, super excited to see a taping. And you would work all week to come up with a script that was very funny and rehearse it and camera block it, and then get to do it live in front of this crowd, and they cheer and clap, and it's a blast. A lot. That's just the format and the the experience most people can have on a multi-camera sitcom. But then when you add to it, like, oh, these are some of the funniest writers, and these are some of the best actors, and they all love each other, so it's really fun to hang out with them during the week. Like I did my first episode of Just Shoot Me and was like, oh my God, I just want to stay here. And they found a reason to bring me back for a couple more episodes. But Just Shoot Me was super, super fun. And Steve Levitan, who created that show or was the showrunner of that show, yeah, he remembers people and brings them back. So I ended up doing another guest star for him on a show with Tony Shalhoub and Neil Patrick Harris. I can't even remember what that was called. And then later I did an episode of Modern Family. So if they like working with you, you may end up crossing paths with some of these show creators multiple times.
Right, and back to the Cusco verse. One thing I've seen people talk about a lot about is Cusco's character development between the movie and the series, particularly how he's still a selfish jerk, even though in the movie he supposedly the whole point of the movie was him learning not to be a selfish jerk. What's your take on that?
I think it's actually probably far more realistic in terms of how people evolve slowly or have to keep doing the same evolution in order for it to stick. I like that the series didn't like pick up, with like everything is perfect now. I appreciate everyone's struggle. No, that's not Cusco at all.
I mean, that would be kind of boring.
Yeah, but he at least acknowledged, he's self-aware enough. He's sort of embracing, like, I guess that's me. He has a little wink and a wry nod that he's able to actually have friends now. Whereas in the movie, he really couldn't have friends. Like, Pasha's like his first friend he's ever had. And I like that in Emperor's New School, his friends are real friends and able to say, you're being a jerk, Cusco.
Which is what friends do.
Exactly. It's what you hope they'll do, is call you on your shit.
Do you, if you can recall any, do you have a favorite episode of the Emperor's New School that you worked on?
I have not gone through and like looked at the episodes in such a long time. I was worried that you were going to maybe ask me about, because the last episode of your podcast I listened to, I think, was season 2, episode 8, or at least that's the one that's online.
I believe so. Yeah.
So I was worried you're going to ask me a lot of questions about episode 9. And so I just watched that one again for the first time in however many years. And I was like, this is really funny. Like, I really liked it. They started splitting some episodes. So it'd be like two 15-minute episodes instead of one, 30 or 20, however many minutes. The one I just watched, that was like episode 9, and it's 2 episodes in one, was where Yzma goes back to her like high school reunion.
Yeah.
And it's full of mean girls, and they kind of pull a like Carrie on her.
Yeah.
They're like, and it was, you really sympathized with her. And I thought that was a cool episode, because Eartha Kitt she's hilarious when she's just doing like, and I will be Empress and all that stuff. But to have her be like a little vulnerable and sucking up to like the cool girls, or the girls who were cool in high school, like I thought that was complex and interesting.
Yeah.
And then the other half of that one was all about like Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
And that just had such great classic like comedy twists in it, where Cusco gets the card he thinks is like totally worthless and trades Kronk for it, and then he finds out it's the most powerful card in the deck, and like just so like I'm referencing that one not because it's the best episode I think of the entire 2 seasons that we did, but it's
fresh on your mind.
Every episode, I bet every episode I watch, there will be moments in there where I'll be like, oh, that's not just funny for kids, like that's funny for the adults in the room too. Yeah.
And who besides Cusco would you say is your favorite character in the Emperor's New Grooviverse?
Yeah, Kronk. I mean, Kronk is so. Yzma's great because she's so emphatic, and I mean, but Kronk just like, I like that he can kind of be in Yzma's camp, or he can be with Cusco, Melina, and everyone else. Like he's got a good perspective, I think, on his place in the Empire. Like he's just it's tomorrow's going to be another day, and
he just wants everyone to be happy.
Yeah, he's an honest guy. He can't lie if he tries. And he's big enough that he doesn't really have to worry about physical repercussions of his actions. So he's just got a nice kind of the dude from Big Lebowski Zen way of living. Now
I've run out of questions, so I have to improvise some.
That's okay. Well, maybe you can help remind me too. Do you have a favorite episode of yours, or one you reference most often?
I don't know. I think by the time I'm done with the podcast, I probably will. Right now, my favorite episode. So I really like Melina.
Yeah.
So my favorite
Jessica Nikika is so great. She is super fun to get to record with when I did get to record with her.
Yeah. My favorite episode is probably the pairing of Melina's Big Break and Hotel Cusco, which one's about Melina getting an interview for a magazine, and the other one, Cusco finds a way to live back in the palace and by tricking the peasants into, and spoilers for anyone who cares at this point, but he into thinking there's a termite infestation, and so then everyone comes in the palace and he has to basically serve everyone, and that's basically the premise of the second segment, and those two are probably my favorite.
So he goes from emperor to being like the lowest status guy, like waiting on everyone. They were those scripts were really funny to read, like before you even heard voices. The Bob Scanaway and his team they were awesome. It's really, really cool stuff, and I would hope I get to do another show with them someday.
Maybe.
I do remember seeing a Cusco character at Disneyland, and it freaked me out because he had such a big head.
I think there's one at Paris right now.
Oh yeah,
and he's like,
yeah,
can't see me, but I'm making
giant
a weird
open
face.
mouth.
Yeah. I feel like Cusco would work better as a face character where you actually could interact with.
And at one point there was a like a scavenger hunt type thing. I think this is certainly before Galaxy's Edge opened.
Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom?
So it was like an interactive kind of game you'd play around the park?
With cards?
I didn't know if it involved car. I never actually got to do it, but I recorded some voice stuff
Yeah,
for it.
that's Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom.
Okay, all right. Was it fun? Did you do it?
Yeah, it was fun. Some of the
How long
issues
did it
were
last?
that they relied on the camera seeing your card, and so you had to hold them specifically so the cameras could see them. So that was a
I
little
see.
tedious.
Yeah.
But I went there once for a 24-hour event, and after not after hours because they were open 24 hours, I went and did it hoping I would get the Emperor's New Groove level, and I did.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
This is what you won. This appearance on your podcast. I hope it's worth it.
I believe that was Candy Milo's debut, and apparently, according to her only, because they replaced her also as Yzma.
Right.
Since Eartha Kitt had sadly passed away in 2008.
He had sadly passed away, yeah.
So the only person from the actual movie in there was Patrick Warburton, because Pacha doesn't make an appearance at all for some reason.
Huh. That's, yeah, I wish I never got to play that or try to advance through its levels.
There's videos of people doing it on YouTube.
Happened. Yeah.
It's not the same thing, but you get like you can watch little movies and see what's going on.
But the tech, has improved so much since then.
Yeah. I mean, that was like a decade ago.
Experiences are totally different now. Yeah. That was like a little bridge game.
And I believe you also did at Disneyland Paris. I believe this was you. You did. There was a one-night event where Cusco showed up and did.
There was. They wanted me to like sing
the theme song from the movie.
I had to sing something because we only had like one or two songs in the TV series. There was a whole disco thing I remember we did.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it was some very rich dude had a private party like at Disney Paris, and they wanted Cusco, and they wrote some stuff for him to say and do. And so I went and I recorded that. I can't believe you were aware of it. You weren't there, I trust.
No, I've never been outside of the United States.
Well, when you go, go straight to Disneyland, wherever the Disneyland is, it'll all be very familiar. No reason to discover the actual countries. So yeah, that was, is it on YouTube somewhere? Can I see it?
I believe it's called Max Live Getting Goofy with It.
Getting Goofy with It.
And it's hosted by Max from a Goofy movie.
Right. Okay, because getting jiggy with it is so recent and topical and current. And
it was some other. If it wasn't that, it was some other play on Goofy.
Oh, I'm sure you're right. I think you're right. Okay, well, no, I'll have to go see that unless I'll be horrified. It's my voice coming out of one of those giant.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. It's weird.
All right.
And they put some spirally things on the crown and stuff. I don't like just.
Oh, that aren't from other animation that you've seen?
Yeah, they added details that I don't think they needed to add to the crown to make it look more shiny.
Well, it might have been if that billionaire was throwing a party for his son or something, like maybe his son has that hair, and so they changed it.
It was Goofy. The billionaire was Goofy.
Oh, yes, that's right. Well, he's been around long enough. He's got the money. He's got a lot of Disney shares.
Gosh. What else?
Oh, buy low, sell high.
Sorry, I'm taking so long to figure out more questions.
That's okay. We can talk about other stuff. Well, how did you? I'll start asking you questions.
Okay.
So, was it that you first saw the movie, The Emperor's New Groove, and you just loved it so much that you like wanted to do a deep dive and become the expert?
Very complicated.
So are there a lot of Disney properties that you're in love with?
Well, I do love lots of Disney properties. The reason The Emperor's New Groove started when the movie came out, I was 6 and I liked it fine. Then the TV show came out and I liked it fine. Then there were reruns in the early 2010s of the TV show, and that made me rediscover the show, and I really got invested in these characters, and so I wanted to revisit the movie. And I got obsessed with the movie. And I want people to know that there's like all these layers of characters, and like it's not just like some people think, oh, it's a cheap spinoff, but like there's stuff there.
Yeah.
It has value.
No,
To
the
me at
movie's
least.
its own thing and is terrific. But yes, the way they sort of cracked the code for how to make it a TV series, which again, regrettably, only 2 seasons, but there's plenty of good stuff. I couldn't agree more.
I'm just happy the 2 seasons actually have a conclusion.
God, you're telling me. I mean, this is sort of the, like, my life story with Disney is I'll do like a show for 2 seasons and then it'll be a cliffhanger episode and we never come back. You know, like for fans of Phil of the Future, let me apologize again that we literally left you hanging in, you know, I don't know what time you're in because the machine was on its way to the future. Then they realized they left Curtis at home. And Phil,
that would have been an interesting story.
I love Keely. Keely loves Phil. They're separated by space and time. We got to go back. And then we never went back. Like, what terrible rug to pull out from under you.
Yeah. Yeah, that happened a lot in the early 2000s. And then after Emperor's New School, it seemed more shows started to actually have finales.
I think they would give them a little bit more heads up. Like in our case with Phil of the Future, I think it was Miley Cyrus, it was Hannah Montana. So like we had to make room for Hannah Montana. I think they wanted to bring that show in, and it was a very last minute decision which show was going to get canceled to make room for Hannah Montana. And so that was why we would have given a satisfactory ending if we knew it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the writers of Emperor's New School were given enough of a heads up that, like, oh, Phineas and Ferb is getting bigger and we need to do this other thing too. So, which
has an interesting connection to the Emperor's New School. Not only did Danny Jacob do music for both shows, but there's an episode of the Emperor's New School, season 2, episode 1, where Kronk has briefly, there's a gag where Kronk basically has a home improvement show, and there's a theme song for it called Kronk for Hire, and the instrumental of that is used repeatedly in Phineas and Ferb.
Ooh, well, I'm sure they're hoping you won't notice that, but it could not escape you.
Also, the wiki says it.
Ultimately, these things take time and cost money, and not just Disney, who's notorious for penny pinching or finding ways to cut corners and things like, but still have the quality appear terrific. It's the nature of the beast that, like, you got to knock out all these episodes. If you can do flashback scenes that are just still photographs, all right, well, now you don't need to animate those images. Like in that class reunion episode that I just watched, they show Yzma, her whole thing about telling what high school was like, it's all like black and white stills, which makes life a little easier on the animators. And so for music stuff, if you're able to recycle a riff or a little bit of a song and use it on another show without anybody noticing, why wouldn't you? Especially if it's the same musician or composer.
And then it becomes like a little Easter egg thing between Emperor's New School and Phineas and Ferb fans, but I'm technically both, so.
Totally, yeah. And I'm sure there's plenty of bits in like Danny Elfman's scores that if you really listen to them closely, you'll be like, oh, there's a little bit of Pee-wee's.
If you listen to any composer scores, like, you'll hear the similarities and be able to pick up that that's who it is.
Signature style.
Yeah. What was I gonna say?
Okay. So we were saying how you got you wanted people to know that.
So that's why I started the podcast.
It wasn't just a kids animated show that happened to be on TV. It was like it had plenty of stuff worth digging into and looking at.
Yeah. And there's lore. Not something I take too seriously, but it's there.
Yeah. Well, then the problem is, like, you start to do something that people really respect how complex it is. Then you have to be super careful, because anytime you break your own rules or forget something that's part of the show's Bible, people like you are going to call them out on it and be like, wait, this doesn't make sense because he said that in episode this. And it's like, you're right.
It's like, I don't understand the shows that actually do manage to do that. Like, how solid, like, with all these people writing each episode and stuff. I mean, they have a person.
So I just had a little bit of a insight into that recently, because I have a friend who is one of the creators of Ted Lasso, and they have a in-depth biography for like every one of the players on that soccer team, even though after 2 seasons, you still only a few characters have really we've gotten to really meet them and know their whole story. For all the other players on that team, they've got all the information they need for someone to come in and write an episode that will stay on track with their Bible. I put that in quotes, like it's the show Bible.
Yeah. Not the Jesus Bible.
And that blew me away. I couldn't believe they put in that much work on the front end to make life consistent later.
The beautiful thing about the Emperor's New Groove franchise is any plot holes that you have in the continuity, you can just come up with some wacky convoluted headcanon and it will work.
Yeah. No, you can totally do like, oh, remember that time when we did this and did that, and it'll fix that plot hole for sure.
Yeah. Shame they never did a fake clip show. That would have been
be good. Yeah. Now I'm bummed that Eartha Kitt's not around. I mean,
isn't everyone?
Yes, but like now I'm thinking more and more about Yzma and like how great she was. I'm really glad they cast her in that character.
Yeah. And she always came back every opportunity she got because she just loved playing the character so much.
Yeah. And when people talk about like Disney princesses and like evil queens and stuff, I don't think they think of Melina much in the context they don't lump her together with other Disney princesses, but I would
they legally can't because of the rules of Disney princesses. You're only allowed to actually be in a movie.
I see. Melina wasn't in Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah.
Okay.
Disney is complicated.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But Yzma will always be one of my Disney evil queens for sure.
Yeah. She's one of the funniest, the great thing about Yzma is she is a villain who thinks she's like so much more brilliant than much of a genius. She's the evil genius who thinks they're even more of an evil genius than they are. And
the way the character is drawn, all the characters have such sharp lines like at their waist, and she is even more angular than like any of them. I love like when she and Kronk are in their like lab coats and she's having her big plan for the episode, and it does a big cackle laugh, like it's so extreme, it's such sharp lines. It's just hilarious to look at before she even says anything. And the roller coaster, I love that recurring bit.
I wish we had that for real.
I'm surprised they haven't put in one of the parks. Well, I guess maybe if Emperor's New Groove and School were bigger hits, then they would have finally, instead of the Incredicoaster, it would be like Yzma and Kronk's,
And then you'd have statues of Yzma and Kronk. I think I never rule out the possibility of the Emperor's New Groove getting a theme park attraction someday, because it took Pinocchio. I mean, technically some of those years Disneyland didn't exist, but still Pinocchio took 40 years to become considered like the classic the modern classic we consider it, not modern, the classic we consider it today. And it took it 40 years, so it came out in the 40s, so maybe like 20 or 30 or so years after.
Except I don't know that it would get a new high profile movie to get everyone excited about it again. I don't know, but I do know that more and more often I'm encountering people who say, Emperor's New Groove is way funnier than people give it credit. It should have had a bigger reception when it came out. And I think it might have suffered a little for being in the window of years when, what were the other Disney movies around it?
The only other really big Disney movie, one that really has taken off from that era was Lilo and Stitch. The others were Atlantis, Treasure Planet, Brother Bear on the Range.
Right. It was they were trying to kind of figure out what's next. And as a standalone, Emperor's New Groove is terrific, but I think it gets lost in that mix of.
Also, the marketing wasn't that great.
Right. So was it right after that maybe that they went all in on the new Disney princesses?
It was like a decade, like the following decade.
Yeah.
Okay. Or the end of the 2000s was when Princess and the Frog came out, and then after that Tangled and Frozen and Moana.
Right, exactly.
The revival era, as it's called.
Got it.
And yeah. So I don't think I can think of any more questions. So do you have anything you want to?
Okay.
Yeah.
We can check in anytime in the future. I'm going to go and listen to more of your episodes because I was ignorant of the hilarious stuff that goes on in the podcast. And please let your friends know that I think they're hilarious too. I really,
All right.
I was
Do you have,
a kick out of it today.
do you have anything you want to plug?
Let's see what's coming up soon. I'm listening to what I want to plug is that water thing that is draining constantly. I'll have to figure out how to plug that. But otherwise, what's coming up? I mean, I had a small part in Nobody, the Bob Odenkirk movie that came out not too long ago. That's streaming everywhere. You can see me. I think I have one line in it, but you see my face a lot. It's a nice little scene. And otherwise, coming up, I'm trying to think what things have been shot that'll come out soon, what things might not come out at all. I know you'll see me in some capacity in the movie Babylon, but that's probably still another year away. So yeah, let's keep your eyes open for a bald guy on your TV, and it's probably a 20% chance it's me.
And the other percentage is Moby.
It's Moby, Jim Rash.
Or Jim Rash.
Yeah.
Oh,
or
thank you.
Ted, what's his name? Jeff Bezos going back into space.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Really nice to meet you, and continued success.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Bye.